Welcome to Coffees and Content, the podcast keeping you ahead in all things social media and digital marketing. I'm Lauren, digital marketing strategist, international speaker, and the owner of The Social Collective, a multi-six-figure marketing agency. Each week, I'm breaking down all of the latest marketing trends, strategies, and of course, those must-know updates. I'm going to be having conversations with some of the industry's top experts, sharing insights you simply won't hear anywhere else. So grab your cup of coffee and let's get into it. This is Coffees and Content. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Coffees and Content podcast. I am your host, Lauren, tuning in from, as you can see, if you are watching online, another episode in the Social Collective podcast studio. I am so excited to be here bringing you new episodes every single week. I really hope that since we personally spoke last, you have enjoyed the last couple of episodes with my guests from Australia, both Ebony and Amy. I hope you enjoyed those episodes and took away so many things. There is a lot of exciting things to come when it comes to talking about the Social Summit, and I can guarantee you, you have not seen the last of Amy on this podcast, so keep your eyes peeled because more amazing things are yet to unfold. But today's episode, I want it to be something that I guess will give you some really easy, quick, at your fingertips tips and tricks, because I know that that's why so many people listen to this podcast, because you want to have something that you can take away and action straight away. I know that's what I want when I'm listening to a podcast. I don't want to listen to someone yap and yap for hours. I want to listen to them yap and then give me the good stuff. And I want to know, okay, I can go and I can take that away. I can apply it to my business, and then I can come back and ask more questions. And speaking of questions, if you have any, make sure that you're inside our Facebook community. It's on Facebook as the Coffees and Content community. If you're looking for the links to that, or even to our Substack, which is where you can get so many more insights and updates from me, head over to coffeesandcontentpod.com, and that has all of the links that you will ever need to find ways to stay in touch with myself and the Coffees and Content Pod community outside of listening to each of these episodes. But the reason I mention it is because today's episode is, as I said, very tip and trick heavy. I want it to be something that after today's episode, you leave or you turn your audio off feeling like you have so many content ideas at your fingertips. So the inspiration for today's episode has actually come from somebody that's in a coaching program with me. I've spoken about this before on the podcast, and this won't be the last time that you hear about it, but I'm such an advocate for investing in yourself and in your business. If there are things that you know that you don't know, or there's things that you don't know that you don't know, I always recommend finding other experts to learn from, just like what you're doing with me. You're listening to this podcast because you probably want to learn a little bit more about digital marketing and about social media, right? So I always recommend finding people to invest in, whether it's working one-to-one with a coach, it's being in a group coaching program, it is investing in a course, finding ways to upskill in the areas that you're excited about, but also the areas where you kind of get that nudge of, okay, I should probably learn how to do this thing in my business. Don't go crazy. Don't go out there and invest in every single different course, but find the things that are really going to help fine-tune your skills and your craft. And the reason I'm talking about this is because, like I said, this is where this podcast idea came from, is within my own coaching group. I'm part of a bigger mastermind that is run with so many creatives in this industry and beyond this industry, different service providers that are creators. And honestly, being able to get feedback on content, feedback on ideas, help when I'm getting stuck has been so fantastic for being able to continuously move the needle forward in my business. But one of the other things that I've come to realize it's great for is content ideas. Now, the reason this all came about is because on one of our coaching sessions a few weeks ago, we had what they call a peer coaching session. So we jumped into the group, we got split up into a whole bunch of different smaller breakout groups. And what we were asked to do is bring something to the group that we were struggling with, or we needed a little bit of momentum or support or advice or guidance, whatever it is that we were needing at the time. Our coaches advised us to bring this to the session so we could get help from other people that are also living and breathing service-based businesses. So that's exactly what I did. Little did I know that somebody in my group had actually specifically put in a request for somebody that works in social media to be part of that group. And myself, and there was another expert in the group, were, of course, the social media experts that they popped into this peer group. And so we got to give some advice. The person that was asking, so the service provider that was asking for some help during this session, was basically asking the question around, I'm really good at doing what I'm doing. I'm really good at running my business. I'm really good at offering my services and providing support to my clients. Where I fall short is actually getting my own content out there in the digital space. I have so many case studies. I have so many amazing, valuable pieces of content I could share. But when it comes to creating my content, I spend all day focusing on how I can really use my creative juices for my clients, that by the time it comes to my content, I am so exhausted. And because of that, I haven't built up a consistent rhythm. That, for me, is where I find a lot of my clients fall short. And that's stuff that we combat literally from session one or day one of working with them, is we make sure that we combat all of the areas where you're feeling stuck and you're struggling. Because if you're feeling stuck and you don't have some easy to reach content ideas that you can grasp at as soon as you need them, often what we find is that the momentum takes so much longer to build up because we're using all of our energy to find the ideas, to find the things to talk about and to discuss, instead of honing it in and going, right, I'm going to use my creative mojo to get a podcast episode out there or to get a piece of content up on social media. So what we did in this session is the questions got thrown over my way. And what I wanted to do is, once we had figured out who their ideal client was, what their core messaging was, who they're wanting to attract on social media, I then wanted to make sure that they had, within 2 seconds of talking to me, some really easy, quick places to go to find ideas for social media content so that they can get the ball rolling. Because it's funny, I think I talk to a lot of people about this, and there's a lot of business owners that feel like when it comes to marketing, actually, let me backtrack for 2 seconds. First of all, I want to remind you as a business owner, you stepped into the business that you're running to run the business. You did not step into the business that you're running to become the world's best marketer. So, first and foremost, I want you to stop talking to yourself and being hard on yourself, expecting that you are going to be the world's best marketer, because we don't have to be. You don't have to be. You stepped into a different industry, likely. Granted, I know social media managers. Shout out to you all. I know you're listening to this podcast too. But for those of you who are not in the social media space, you didn't step into your industry to be an amazing marketer. So if creating content needs to be a little bit simpler for you to get that ball rolling, get the creative juices flowing, and actually get something out there, I would absolutely be reaching for those things before you start strategizing and doing what most people do, which is thinking that everything has to be so complex and so detailed. And we're constantly scrolling through Instagram looking for all of the carousels that will teach us how to create the perfect piece of content. Or worse, we're going straight to ChatGPT and we're saying, hey, GPT, can you please write me a post? And they're saying, sure, here's a post on something totally irrelevant. So we're not going to do those things from now on. What we are going to do is start looking at the easiest possible places that we can go to find content. Are you ready? I think I hear a yes. So, the other thing that I wanted to share with you as well with today's podcast is, once you finish listening to it, this is why I was shouting out the Facebook group and the Substack at the beginning of this episode, is because what I want you to do is, if you're feeling like I've got these content ideas at my fingertips, they are so easy to grasp and I'm onto it like hotcakes, I want you to step back and ask yourself a couple of questions. One, do I understand who I'm supposed to be targeting my content at? So who am I speaking to? And two, do I understand what I'm supposed to be talking to them about? If you can't answer those two questions just like that for me, I want you to head over to thesocialcollective.co.nz and download our Confident Content Kickstart workbook. Bit of a mouthful, but definitely worth the download, because what's inside that workbook, it's something that I've just recently created. It's basically brand new, is it's going to step you through in less than 5 minutes how to identify your ideal dream clients, and it's going to help you nail your content pillars. And from there, everything in today's episode is going to become that much more potent and powerful, because the tips and the tricks that I'm going to teach you for where to find the absolute best content ideas at your fingertips are going to work that much better. We're not just going to be putting out content for the sake of putting it out there. We're going to be putting out content that speaks to your correct audience. It speaks to the people that are already ready to work with you. And of course, it's going to be completely aligned to your business. So head over to the website now if you haven't downloaded that already. But like I said, I will be putting this inside the Facebook group and on the Substack. So make sure that you are inside the community and you're subscribed to the Substack if you're not already. And I will see you all there. Okay, so let's get into the episode. Of course, I know that you are all here today because you want to know what my top tips are for really easy, within reach places to go to find ideas when you are stuck. And like I said, this idea for this whole podcast episode was inspired by one of the members in my coaching program. And because of that, I'm going to share the exact tips that I shared with them. Lucky you. Number one, which I think is a space that is entirely underrated, is your DMs and your comments. If you're looking for easy places to find content, easy ways to create content, top of mind questions from your audience, from literally the audience that already exists, of people that might actually be this close to wanting to work with you, is your DMs and your comments. And the reason why I say that is because when one person is thinking of a particular question, I can pretty much guarantee you that there's at least 10 others wondering the exact same thing. So if you're going to your comments and someone is asking, how do I do XYZ? Or let's, for example, say you're a product business. If you have a product and someone's asking, how do I use this part of it? Or how many mils do I get? How many ounces is this? How heavy is this? How does this function? Can this do XYZ? If one person's asking that question, I can guarantee you there's so many others that are going, oh, I'd like to know the answer to that one too. So instead of just answering that singular DM where nobody else can see it, or answering that comment that just stays on that particular post and anyone else who doesn't see that post misses out, why don't we take that and turn it into content? So effectively what we're doing is we're allowing our audience to drive the conversations with us around what it is that they're looking for, and then allowing us to turn that into content. So things that are really easy that you can be looking for is comments and questions and DMs like how your pricing structure works, or how your services are packaged, or how your product works. What is the process? What are the results? Transformation in particular is one of the best things you can talk about. So looking at the questions that they have and asking yourself, how can I turn this into a piece of content that really shows just how impactful what we have to offer is going to be for them? Another thing that you can do is look to turn it into a Q&A post. I see a lot of stories get posted frequently, and a lot of people post this to their feeds as well, where they'll put a question box up in their stories and then they'll type the answer. But a fun fact is, and there's actually two little insider tips that I want to share with you. First one is that Q&A box, you can actually use that in Canva. So if you design any of your social media content in Canva, you can actually go over there and find that in one of the templates, and then you just drag your own image behind and you can put your own questions and answers in the box. The other thing, which is such a sneaky little hack, but I love it. I think it makes answering questions that people aren't even aware that they have yet, it makes it so much more convenient for them to get the answers and so much easier. And it actually plants seeds in their mind before they've even realized that this was a question. So quite often what a lot of business owners will do to be able to ask the questions, if you're really struggling and you feel like you put a question box out there and you're saying to your audience, ask me your questions, but they're not, chances are, A, you haven't done it enough to actually get that back and forth engagement, and B, they might just not know what to ask. So why don't you start the process for them? And this is where it gets a little cheeky behind the scenes. When you see the questions that come in through that Q&A box, what we don't see is who asked them. So a sneaky little hack that I have for you is that if you've noticed that in the back end of your social media, your emails, whatever that looks like, your DMs are getting flooded with the same kind of question, you can take that and ask yourself the question and actually answer it on your stories. I'm going to say it again because some people I know will be like, my brain's blown. You can actually take that question, put it into your own question box, and then answer it as if somebody else asked the question. You don't have to clarify that you did or did not ask that question of yourself. You could just put it in there. And I think it's one of the best ways to really encourage people to start reaching out with their questions, because I guarantee you, once you open those floodgates and you start answering questions for people, so many more people are going to have other questions. You can, of course, also turn this into like content for reels. You can turn it into carousels. You can take a screenshot. I quite often will take a screenshot of the question that someone's asked. I'll blank out their profile photo and I'll make sure I cut their name out so it's really anonymous. And then you can go and you can put it as a green screen behind you on social media. You could put it as a little like image over the top of another image, or you could turn it into a template in Canva. There's so many options that you've got in terms of ways that you can get that content out there, taking it directly from your DMs or your comments and putting it on social. One other final hack I will share for this little segment before I move on to hack number 2 is comments. You can actually now pin those to your stories when it comes to putting up a story post. So if somebody puts a really good question that you want to answer, you can take that. If you hold your finger down on the comment that they have put on a post, you're going to see a feature where it says add to story. And what that's going to do for you is allow you to add the image and the comment to your story. So then you could type an answer and you could answer that question for the public to see. And that then becomes something really fantastic to pin to your highlights. So keep that in mind as you go throughout creating your content. The next space that you can look for any kind of questions and answers, of course, is very similar to your DMs, but it's your emails. I get a lot of emails that come in frequently into the info inbox. It's people that are ready to work with us, but might just have a couple of questions about how it works with us, or can we share some case studies, or can I see how you've managed to execute XYZ, or what does it look like to be a coaching client of mine? And again, those questions are really great ones that we can take and turn into content, because no doubt if someone has taken the time to ask the question or respond to like a newsletter of yours or respond to an email that you've sent out with a particular question, there's probably again like 10 other people that also want to know the answers. Another way that I think is a really cool hack for finding really easy content outside now of your DMs, your comments, your emails. So we're kind of getting away from the digital and the social space. It's actually looking into the conversations that you have with people. How often do you have a coaching call with a client, or you have a sales call, or you have a coffee catch up, or you send a voice note where you think to yourself, my gosh, that was a really valuable piece of information there. I think I shared such a good golden nugget. How often do you think about that? Because I frequently will share advice and information and details and little top tips and tricks with friends that I'm out for coffee with, my hairdresser when she's doing my hair. Her and I often sit down and we talk about social media and I give her tips and tricks. Again, in my group coaching session, I was giving away tips and tricks. Those things are some of the best places to find content ideas because you've thought of them yourself, but they've also come from a really organic conversation. So, one of the things that I do, which I swear by, is keeping a note in my phone. I keep it on the little notes app on my iPhone. And every single time that I have an idea, whether I'm out for coffee or I'm out running errands or I'm having a conversation with somebody, and I have an idea for a piece of social media content, you don't by any means have to be ready to create it then and there, because I'm certainly not. But what I do is I put it in my notes app and I make sure that I've got that noted down for when I'm next at my computer, sitting down, strategizing, coming up with the best possible content ideas. And then I put that content into my content bank and I create some content out of it. I think it's such a handy way. So looking at things like what conversations are constantly coming up over and over again. And this is something you don't just have to think about in the moment. You can reflect back on it and think, okay, when I hosted this retreat, or when I ran this day, or when I was at my latest content shoot with a client, or when I last was at an expo showing off my products and services. What were the conversations that came up time and time again? And this is why I cannot recommend to anyone highly enough. As the business owner, you need to be social. And when I say that, I don't just mean through being online and being in the digital space. I literally mean getting out there and having conversations with people face to face, because that is where we have some of the best inspiration moments for content. So, the other things you can do as well is looking at ways that you can maybe record some insights. I quite often use the like AI features and AI tools. I know the Otter AI do it, and I just use it through Zoom. But on a Zoom call with any of my clients, I will frequently turn on the AI transcription feature, mostly because I love it, because it can take notes, so it can repeat back to us anything that I missed in my note taking process. But also, sometimes it captures some really great content ideas, and you can go back and look at those and go, oh, that was a good one. So, recording anything you can, behind the scenes thoughts. So, as you're creating pieces of content, as you're running your business, you might be packaging up products, you might be emailing suppliers, you might be responding to potentially wholesalers, looking at those kinds of conversations that are happening as you're doing your day to day business transactions, and see what comes up there. I think conversations on the daily are such a great one to grab content ideas from, purely because you're not actively going out there to look for content ideas. You are just naturally going about your business, and anything that naturally occurs and questions that organically come up while you're running your business, again, are questions that are top of mind for people. They're the really important things. They're not the down in the dirt, icky mucky, really long, convoluted questions that one specific person has. They're usually questions that apply to the masses. The fourth easy within reach place that we can go to be finding content ideas as well. And again, this one is just so insanely overlooked that it actually blows my mind, but it's your past content. It is the content that you've posted beforehand that either performed really well, took off, got lots of saves, lots of shares, whatever that looks like. There is nothing stopping you from taking that piece of content, flipping it a slight bit, repurposing it, and resharing it. You can, if you're super, super lazy, which I don't really recommend, but if you are super lazy, you can obviously go down the route of literally just reposting the content as is. But what I would encourage you to do is look at your carousels, find your top performing carousels, see if you can turn those into reels, and then do the same vice versa. Finding your most popular top performing reels and looking at how you can turn those into carousels. Because again, that direct swap is going to change the way that people consume it, the way that people understand it, the way that they might save it or share it with other people. And again, it gives you great insights for moving your marketing forward as well. It doesn't always need to be new content when we post things online. It just has to be relevant. So, making sure that we're still connecting it back to our target audience, we're still connecting it to our business. And of course, if it's timely, why not repost it? There's a lot of people that do that come Christmas time, because come Christmas time or like Easter or Halloween, those kinds of like key dates, the messaging doesn't really change. I mean, unless we're trying to like totally pivot the business, there's a lot of things come Christmas time that businesses on repeat will sell the same things. They will push the same products, they'll do the same discounts on services. There's lots of different things that we can be doing that actually end up becoming stuff we do on autopilot and repeat. So, the more that you can look for ways to make that process easier for you, the better. I would also remind yourself that you can also take this opportunity to add additional value. So there's a lot of pieces of content that I posted years and years ago that are still insanely relevant to today, like today's market, today's climate, what's going on with our digital marketing and our social media game. But there's new insights that I now have that I would quite like to share with my audience. I no longer think that you're, I guess, talking about content pillars. I don't believe that they are educational, inspirational, connection focused, and promotion. Those to me are your content types. But once upon a time, long, long ago, that's the side of things that I thought was really impactful. I've now since developed my own formula and realized that there is a much easier way to be creating content that is so authentic and so aligned to your business. And that's now the new formula that I share. So there's old content of mine that I can take and I can repurpose it while also adding in my now relevant, up to date, very detail oriented and insight driven expertise that I can add to that post. And no doubt you can do the same. So just because it's been posted before, it doesn't mean A, you can never post it again, and doesn't mean that you can't change your mind. You don't have to post everything the exact same, and you don't have to believe the same things that you did like 5, 10 years ago, because you have evolved, you have changed, times have changed, and so is your market probably. So see how that goes. Sit down and see if you can find some ways to go back through your past content and pull out some content ideas. And with all of that, I'm getting to the very, very last tip, which of course is your audience's words. And when I say this, I mean feedback, I mean testimonials, I mean reviews, I mean comments that they drop into a live workshop or when they come in to buy their product off you, or anything that they have shared that they have found that's been really impactful. It could be a Google review of all things, or a review that they drop on your website. Looking for ways that your clients describe you and then turn that into your next headline. If they had amazing, stellar, outstanding experience with you, use that to drive your next piece of content. That if you're looking for someone that's amazing, outstanding, stellar, that gives you top quality service, we are the people for you. So taking that into consideration, because again, this is why I'm also such a big fan of sharing testimonial content, putting out video content out there if people give you video testimonials, because nobody speaks better about your brand, secondary to you. Nobody speaks better about your brand than the people that are actually buying from you. I was having a conversation with someone about this today, actually. They know that every single review and testimonial that they get given is from a real, genuine, authentic buyer of their content. They don't pay any influencers, they don't pay any content creators. They go out and they ask their audience to review it, and they have incentives in the way to make sure that that happens. And the reason they go for the authenticity is because it's so much more believable, and people are 10 times more likely to buy into your content, whether it's a product or a service, if they can see what other people have shared, because it deepens what you're trying to share. It deepens the messaging, it deepens the impact. So, next time that you're looking for something, maybe just prick your ears up to what your audience is saying, because you never know. The next Google review you might get might be the thing that converts your next client. But of course, you have to turn it into a piece of content first. So, as we come to the end of today's episode, like I said, I'm going to wrap up really quickly, rapid fire recap the 5 places that I recommend you go and look for your content when you are feeling stuck. Number 1, your DMs and your comments. Number 2, your emails. Any questions that you're getting both sent and received. Number 3, your conversations. So those sales calls, those coffee chats, those voice notes. Number 4 is our past content, all of the top performing stuff. And number 5 is our audience's words, those reviews, the feedback, the testimonials, the things that they've shared, all the golden nuggets that they've taken away. And my friends, if you are doing that and combining it with strategy, you are going to have content ideas for days. Like, that is epic. And this is all stuff that, like I said, is within such easy reach. It's not hard to find it. It's not hard to look for. You don't even have to have a business that's been active for that long to be able to look in places like your DMs or the last coffee conversation you had with someone about your business to find this content. You don't need a million ideas when you get started. You just need one. So go out after you listen to this episode today, see if you can find one really easy top tip piece of insight or inspiration or information that you can get out there and share with your audience. And what I want you to do is turn it into a piece of content, post it up on social media, whether it's as a story, as a carousel, as a reel, whatever that looks like. I want you to tag in at Coffees and Content Pod and at lauren.thesocialcollective so I can see it and I can see all the amazing pieces of content, because I am going to be resharing them for you and showing people what it is that my audience is made of. But if you are really, really feeling stuck, like I said, comment on our latest post on Instagram. Go and comment the word stuck. And what we're going to do is send you, I should say, am going to send you a personal voice note with a couple of custom GPT prompts that you can put into ChatGPT to help you take this information and repurpose it. So what I want you to do is DM me the word stuck on Coffees and Content Pod, and I will give you a hand with your content. And that is all for today. I hope you are feeling like, oh, I've got inspiration coming out my ears. You are ready to dive into your social media content and start making these conversations that you're having one-to-one go one-to-many. Because, my friends, there is so much to be done here. You have so much headed your way, and I cannot wait to see all the content that you create. But I will be back same time, same place next week with another brand new guest episode with somebody that I know that you will love to hear from. So make sure that you're following us everywhere that you can follow the Coffees and Content Pod. Make sure that you head over to the website as well, coffeesandcontentpod.com, and find the Facebook community link. And of course, make sure you're subscribed to the Substack. If you have any questions, as always, message me on Instagram. And if I can respond in under a minute, I will send you a DM. And if it's going to take longer, I'll turn it into an episode. But that is all for today. Have an amazing rest of your day. Enjoy finishing off that morning cup of coffee, and I will see you very soon. Bye.